What's up, guys? It's Saturday, the 10th of June. Welcome into the podcast. I'm going to do a real short one today because I wanted to put one out, but I am just so, frustrated in general just recently. And then today, just takes the cake. So my car has been in the shop this week, and it wouldn't start. And so I was like, man, I really hope it's not something serious because I'm so tired of, I say I'm putting money into this. It's my parents' vehicle still, so they're putting a lot of money into this. And I've told them numerous times, I'm like, just stop. Like, it's not worth it. And their idea is that it's worth it to fix it so that I have a running car, so that I am not paying for another car. That kind of idea, I guess, worked maybe, I don't know, $10,000 ago. It was not an expensive car, and then we've put double the investment back into it to fix it, to keep it going, and I'm tired of it. The way things are, though, financially, with the amount of bills that I currently have, I don't want to pick up a car payment just because, it's already, tighter than I'd like it to be. I don't want to make that even worse. It's stressful to me. Money's one of those things that has always stressed me out. And it causes different, I don't know. I get self-flustered, and it's not good. And honestly, I'm tired of it. And so today, I got my car back, and I was like, all right, right on. They fixed a couple of the things. It worked. But, man, it was expensive to fix. And then I got into my car tonight to drive home from work, and I turned the lights on, and something happened, and my high beams came on. I was like, oh, that's weird. And I tried to turn them off. And no go. Nothing was happening. And I was like, this is just fantastic. What? I turned my car off, and the high beams were still on. So I was like, why? Why does this happen to me? Can I just catch one little tiny break with vehicles? That'd be so awesome. So now I gotta figure that out. I got home, and I remembered I have a ratchet set in my car. Went looking for it, and it's funny because whoever worked on my car tossed the inside of my car all over the place. Not too happy about that. That ratchet set opened up and was all over the back seat. I'm not happy at all about that. The shop that we got the work done at has been a shop that my parents have used for years and years. They've always taken their cars there, and for a long time it was good work. They did a good job. They were very attentive. They were very nice. But over the years, I just feel like the shop has gone downhill. I don't know if it's the employees that they have, the fact that the owners are getting older. The last 2 times that I've had my car there have been a nightmare. And I'm like, I'm done with it. I don't want to go to this shop anymore. But it's not really my say because, my parents want to take it there because that's where they feel comfortable. Because they don't venture out and try and find a new place. They kind of have been set in, oh, this shop is really good and we've done good work and they're always honest. There's something to be said about an honest mechanic, but there's also something to be said about a mechanic who just gets the work done in a timely fashion. I'm not entirely certain either that they're as honest as they make themselves out to be. I had spoken to a friend about the cost of this. I was like, man, it is pricey. The invoice was like $1,100. Okay? $1,100, and they fixed 4 things. They fixed, it was a fuel pump, That's the reason it wouldn't start. They fixed the fuel pump module. They gave me a new battery. They put in a new washer pump. And they put on a new door handle on the driver's side. It was $1,100. And a buddy of mine who does mechanic work for a living, he's like, you're looking at $65 plus tax for the battery, $65 for the fuel pump, washer pump's $13 and some change, and the door handle's $15.70. I was just quick math. That's like $150 for those 4 things. And so I was looking at it. They charged me $389 for the fuel pump. I mean, talk about a markup. I mean, if you want a job where, you make some money, learn to be a mechanic, come across super honest, and just rip off people. And, who's the wiser, honestly? I wouldn't have known. So I'm fed up at this point. So I'm down there. I'm like, what am I going to do? All I can do is unhook the battery. So I find the ratchet set. I dig through and I finally find the right socket and unhook the battery. My lights are off for now, so at least my car will start tomorrow when I drive to go figure out how to fix this. Which isn't helpful because they're not open on Saturday. It's I just don't even know. It'll be interesting to see what happens with this. Because I may just have to bite the bullet and get a new car and do the payment and pick up a second and third job. Who knows, man? I had a pretty good day, though, going into when I went out to my car. Stopped by the homie's smoke shop to get some new glass. Shout out to Smokes for You in Murray. Good people. Love that kid. I've been trying to organize my life in such a way that I'm on top of things, but lately it's, oh man, I've just been so behind. So I'm on the catch up, I guess, and I just need a little pick me up. I wouldn't say I have a drug problem or an addiction problem anymore. At one point it was pretty bad with all sorts of things, but now I don't know. I've cut back on drinking, I've cut back on smoking, I've cut back on all other drugs. And it's been pretty good, and it's actually been able to be beneficial for me. But I'm excited to try this out. I got this little bubbler, and it's been a minute, so we'll probably end the podcast early for that reason. I'm hoping that we can have my buddy Eric on the podcast tomorrow. I'm going to record just another podcast on the NBA. He informed me that he has a take that I'm not going to like, which I can see. This final series has not been going how I'd like it, but was glad to see the Cavs pull it out tonight and come out firing and hopefully get a win, more than just one, because I really hope it can go to 7. That'd be great. I think it's interesting that I've seen all these ideas that somehow the finals are rigged. I think at one point in time it happened, that notorious Lakers-Kings Game 6. Obviously, there was something going on there. But Steph Curry's wife last year saying that it was rigged because they came back from 3-1. Sour grapes. And she shouldn't talk about it because really it just is a bad look. Because conspiracy theories to me are perpetuated by a lot of nutty folks. And the NBA Finals being rigged is one of them. So a popular one is the fact that if Golden State swept, they would lose $22 million in revenue. I don't think that they really care about that. That's not important to them. They're not going to lose a game so that they can make another $10 million. That's not what the players are thinking. The players play the game. The players are getting paid regardless. They're in contracts. They're not getting paid per game dependent on if they play the game. They're making money on a contract. So to say that, oh, you know, if we get the sweep, if we sweep Cleveland, and we're going to miss out on $22 million, that doesn't make sense to me. I mean, that's a tremendous amount of money that you'd miss out on. But that's not how a team would play. Especially a team like Golden State that doesn't play around. I think that they just got out-hustled tonight, and the ball fell Cleveland's way. And I'm glad, because anytime Golden State loses is a good time for me. I'm kind of salty like that, I guess. This finals has not been my favorite. I actually haven't watched as much of it as previous years. I just don't have like the drive to. I'm not interested in it. And it's because it's so like one-sided. I mean, even if it was competitive at times, I don't think I'd be as interested, because they're facing a team in the Warriors that is so talented that, I mean, you kind of expect them to win. And if they don't win, that's going to be the biggest mindfuck ever, is if they don't win. Because how do you have, you know, the two of the last MVPs, 4 potential Hall of Famers, and then you lose? I mean, especially with them being up 3-1 right now. If they lose this series, I don't know what to say. Cleveland, if they won 4 straight, I'd say that cements LeBron as better than Jordan. Hands down. I don't care about any other argument other than he would be better because he came 4 straight against the Warriors, the 2017 Warriors. Jordan never faced a team that could hold the 2017 Warriors jockstrap. Let's be honest. There's a lot of Utah fans that think that those Utah teams were great, but no, they really weren't. They were good teams, but they weren't great. Jordan didn't play great competition in the finals, ever. So I would think that if LeBron could come back and win this, that would be a legacy builder. I mean, look at the numbers he's putting up. I don't have them in front of me right now, but he had another triple-double tonight. He's working hard, and people keep on this tired argument. I always hear it. Clutch, not clutch. Disappears in the fourth quarter. I mean, it just doesn't add up to me. The stats don't add up, but people honestly don't care about stats because they just care about being right and hearing themselves talk. I've had to stay off a lot of social media stuff when it comes to basketball, just because there's so much that goes on that's ignorant and people just don't get it. And there's no sense in fighting it with, facts, because facts aren't important to them. I think it's funny that's a part of life. Facts really aren't important to a lot of people. You can come up at somebody with facts, prove them wrong, and you can still lose the argument. It's not about like making a good point, because if you're arguing about some of these things with people, it's a good chance that they weren't going to go into it with an open mind anyway. So why are we arguing? At one point in my life, I really enjoyed Facebook arguments. Thought they were hilarious, and I would just stir the pot, stoke the fire, what have you. I hated it, but at the same time, I loved it. Like, I would make people so mad. And the thing about it was, I'm not about to argue unless I have a pretty good idea of what my point of view is. I've done research. I have a solid idea of what I'm going into. And so that would frustrate people because I had valid points. And when you're addressed with valid points and you don't really have any, then you start like name calling or, oh, you're stupid, just stuff like that. And I always thought that this quote was really interesting. It was like, you can't argue with an idiot because they'll drag you down to their level and beat you with experience. And I saw a lot of my friends do that, and people would get so mad on Facebook, and then they would get into these arguments, and then they'd look bad because they, there wasn't anything that they could do. They fed the trolls, I guess. A memorable one for me was, I think it was 2011, maybe? Or maybe even after that. That Joseph Kony thing, the invisible children. It was a big deal, and social justice warriors were kind of new at that point. Now you can't go anywhere on the internet without running into them. It's actually obnoxious. But back then I had all these people that were so interested in it, and they pushed it and they pushed it and they pushed the video and make Kony famous or whatever. And first off, that bothered me because I was like, there's a word for making bad people a highlight. It's called infamous. It's not famous. We don't want to make him famous. Rather infamous. There were so many people that didn't do research on it. They didn't care to do anything other than post it, repost it onto Facebook, and blast people who didn't agree. The whole situation was kind of old news. There's still problems with it, and you could still donate to help the invisible children. There's an organization specifically for that. And I got into it with people on Facebook, and it left such an awful taste in my mouth. I kind of lost friends over it. I mean, and I definitely lost acquaintances over it. Because I wasn't willing to donate money to something like that. And that somehow made me a bad person. Mind you, there had just been a tsunami in Japan. An earthquake, and then resulting tsunami, that had hit my hometown. My hometown was the epicenter of that earthquake. And so, for me, it was difficult because people came at me and they were like, you're not donating to these African kids. You're not being a good person. And my social justice side said, do you know these kids? Do you know the situation? You don't. You're not any way connected to it other than on Facebook. However, you didn't donate to the earthquake in Japan, which was a real problem. And yet you do have a friend who was directly affected by that. Whether or not it seems, logical in your mind, that was my hometown. I don't know my birth mother, but I do know that she lived there. Did she still live there? I don't know. And I don't know if I'll ever really find out. But to think that that city was leveled by a tsunami and earthquake, the town I was born in is gone from what it used to be. What if my mother had been there? I don't have, my birth mother would have passed away. So that's where I decided to donate, where I decided to put my money towards, because that was something that was important to me. And I'm sure I came across fairly abrasive and bullheaded because it was something I believed in, and I really didn't care for the Kony situation one bit. I didn't think that people did their research, and, I don't know how long it took after that, if it was months or years, but we found out that that guy was just a fraud. The man who put together the video, who collected millions of dollars. Is that poetic justice? Like, there's so much animosity towards myself and people who didn't agree with it, from people who jumped on the latest trend, wanted to be part of something, and then it turns out to be a hoax. The invisible children aren't a hoax, but the money collecting for the invisible children by that man was a hoax. I think we need to educate ourselves at all times before we even go into anything. And it's so easy to do that. We have the internet, we have the ability to know things almost instantaneously if we want. But we also have to realize that just because we know things doesn't mean we're right, nor does it mean people will believe us. You can be the smartest person on the planet, and some people will still dispute that you know what you're talking about. That's fine. That's on them. I've been thinking a lot about it recently because it's hard for me to go on the internet. I kind of feel old when I say that. It's like, oh, these kids these days. It's hard for me to go on the internet because of how much negativity there is. I love YouTube. I love to spend time watching music videos. I love music. But there's so much hate. Have you ever, I don't know if you've ever just sat and scrolled through YouTube comments. The most awful, racist, homophobic, just terrible comments reside there. And you have to tune it out because that's such a bummer. You can't enjoy what you want to enjoy when people are like that. That's how it is with sports. Anytime I see posts from ESPN, you gotta stay out of the comment section because everybody's so negative and so awful. That's how it's been with sneakers. I'm in a couple sneaker groups on Facebook, and for the most part, I just can't be in it because of the negativity. Like, if you don't have certain shoes, you're not worth much. It makes me sad that people are so negative with their time. Because honestly, I've been there. I've been on that side. I've been a perpetuator of negative comments, feelings, just vibes. Like I said on an early podcast, I look back on some of those Facebook posts that I've made, and I'm like, I don't know that kid, and I don't care to know that kid. What a piece of shit, man. Like, Sam, circa 2008, 2009, did not have his shit together. I mean, 2011 didn't have it together. I don't think I've had it together until quite recently. I think being in a relationship definitely mellowed me a little bit, and I calmed down with the Facebook stuff. But it's just been interesting to see that. It's amazing to me what kind of burden is lifted off of you when you decide that you're going to be positive and that you're going to spread positivity instead of negativity. It's so easy to retweet or repost or make statuses about negative stuff, and it starts to kind of consume who you are as a person. There's people that are generally just kind of negative people, and it's hard to be around them. You know, I've had friends in the past that I'm like, man, I love you to death, but you need to cheer up a little bit. You need to lighten up a little bit. The negativity is too much. And I would think that that's something that we should go about our day, trying to find positives, trying to look for positives, trying to make other people's days positive. It can even be something simple. For example, I've helped out homeless people or people that are asking for money simply because that's what I wanted to do. I can't really understand. Well, I can understand it. People always start to analyze everything. What is that person doing with that money? What are they going to do with that money? I should just buy them food instead of giving them money. And that's fine. It's your money to do with as you please. But there's no reason for you to make judgment calls on other people. Because at the end of the day, the only person's actions that matter are yours. So what are you going to do? I've given money to people and knowing full well that wasn't going to food, okay? But in my mind, if it's going to something like alcohol or drugs, that's too bad. But that's what is going to soothe them and soothe their soul for a little while. It's out of my control. All I know is that I gave freely. I gave without feeling like I needed to get some reward from it. And I can go on my day. And I can go about my day knowing that, hey, you know what? I helped that person out. I don't know how I helped him out. And, you know, there's people, I always see it and people will reference it. And there's people that scam. You know, they're not actually homeless or in need of money. But once again, that's not on me. What they do, they answer for eventually. And that's all there is to it. I think that people should just be more giving in general. I think people should be more selfless. I believe that we're here to coexist with everybody else here. We don't necessarily need to be in competition with everybody all the time. Sometimes it's about being there to help someone when they need help. When they need a pick-me-up. Because everybody's been there at some point. I don't know. I guess this most recent thing with the car is it's gotten me kind of down and it's frustrating. But the positives are that I have a car and I have transportation to get to work and hopefully I can figure it out. But in the meantime, I'm going to be happy about it and figure out what I'm going to do. This is going to be a really short podcast. I'm going to wrap it up. Tune into the sports podcast. I think that'll be a really fun one. I really, really am hoping that I can get it done tomorrow. That we can get on the same page, myself and Eric. And then we can put that out. And I'm just going to put it out. I won't wait until next week to do it or anything like that. It was kind of interesting. I was thinking that maybe that sports podcast would be talking about a Warriors sweep. I'm really glad that they didn't. But yeah, hopefully you have a good weekend, safe weekend, and thank you for tuning in. Have a good night.